published 1702 EDT, the 21st of August 2017, updated 1049 EDT, the 22nd of August 2017. Three brothers, including a 7-month-old baby, have been saved in an extraordinary rescue operation following a deadly earthquake in central Italy last night. Two boys, aged 7 and 11, were buried under the rubble of their home for more than 14 hours after the natural disaster in the popular tourist island of Ischia, close to Naples. And fire crews were applauded as they carried a 7-month-old baby, named Pasquale, to safety at 4 a.m. after the boys were reported to be trapped by their pregnant mother, who escaped. 7-year-old Mattias was pulled to safety this morning, and the boy's father wept with relief as 11-year-old Ciro was rescued. The baby was rescued at around 4 a.m. after the boy's pregnant mother alerted authorities that he was buried in the remains of the family's home. 2 women are already confirmed dead in the quake, which caused several buildings to topple. Police fear the death toll could rise further, with 6 missing in their decimated homes after the devastating tremor, which measured between 3.6 and 4.3 on the Richter scale, hit the resort island. An estimated 2,600 people have been left homeless, and 39 were injured. A woman was killed in the north of the small island after being hit by debris that fell from a church, with the body of another spotted in the rubble of a collapsed house. A doctor and firefighters carry baby Pasquale to safety and to be reunited with his mum after an earthquake hits the island of Ischia, off the coast of Naples. 7-year-old Mattias, older brother of Pasquale, is brought safety by rescuers after being buried in the rubble for more than 14 hours. Saved there was relief as 11-year-old Ciro was taken to safety after more than 14 hours buried under the rubble of his home. The moment the baby boy was pulled alive from the rubble of a building after an earthquake hit an island off Italy last night. Aerial photographs reveal the scale of damage the earthquake has caused on the island of Ischia, near Naples. As a result of last night's earthquake, people injured in the disaster were taken away on stretchers by rescuers after dozens of buildings collapsed on the island. An elderly man is taken to safety by firefighters on the island off the coast of Naples following last night's earthquake. A number of people have been injured in the quake, and rescue workers are pictured taking stretchered people to safety. Italian emergency workers rescue a young child who was stuck in the aftermath of the deadly earthquake last night. Firefighters show their emotion after a dramatic rescue operation which saw them heroically dig with their bare hands in order to save the 3 brothers. Extraordinary footage shows the moment 7-month-old baby Pasquale was pulled alive from a collapsed building. The firefighters were filmed gently shushing the baby as he was freed before cheers and clapping breaks out as he is handed to a doctor who reunited him with his mother Alessia at the nearby Rizzoli Hospital in Lacco Emeno. All but one of those known to be trapped, including 3 children, were responding to rescuers and expected to be brought out alive today. 2 small communes, Casamicciola and neighboring Lacco Emeno, bore the brunt of the quake, according to the Civil Protection Agency. The quake hit the northwest of the island at 8:57 p.m. last night, at a depth of just 5 kilometers. Italian authorities first put the quake at a 3.6 magnitude, but later revised it upward to 4.0 in seismic terms, a modest event. The main earthquake was followed by 14 smaller aftershocks. Several buildings collapsed while others had large, ominous cracks. Italy is united with Ischia in sorrow for, and solidarity with, the victims. We stand side by side with those taking part in the rescues, Prime Minister Paolo Gentiloni said on Twitter. A rescue worker looks through a shattered roof into a building as the rescue effort off Italy continues today. Most badly affected by the quake is the municipality of Casamicciola Terme, where residents are today coming to terms with the natural disaster. 2 people died as a result of the earthquake, and dozens of buildings collapsed on the island in Ischia. 2 people are pulled from the rubble of their home after a deadly earthquake rocked the volcanic island. This is the first daylight picture of the carnage caused on Ischia, where several people including children remain trapped. Rescue workers check a collapsed house as several people including several children remain trapped. Are missing tourists disembark from a ferry at Pozzuoli harbor after the earthquake hit the island of Ischia, which is a popular tourist spot. Last night, police fear the death toll of 2 could rise further, with 6 missing in the rubble of their homes after an earthquake hit the Italian resort island of Ischia at the peak of its tourist season. A number of buildings on the island were ruined and collapsed after the earthquake on Monday, and people are still trapped. Tourists fleeing from Ischia Island arrive in Pozzuoli, near Naples. After getting ferries to the mainland overnight, people were forced to sleep in the street in the early hours of this morning after the earthquake hit the island of Ischia, off the coast of Naples. Piles of rubble where a house used to stand in Ischia. One person, however, was not communicating, raising fears the death toll could increase, said Police Chief Giovanni Salerno. It caused several buildings to collapse before residents and tourists ran out onto the busy streets. Italy's National Volcanology Institute said the quake, measuring at least 3.6 on the Richter scale, struck a few minutes before 9 p.m. on Monday, when many people were having dinner. The hardest hit area was Casamicciola, on the northern part of the island. Around 4 a.m. emergency workers rescued a 7-month-old baby, crying but alive, after hours of effort. They were still struggling to free the baby's 2 brothers, who were alive but trapped and communicating with emergency services through the rubble, according to Naples Prefecture. It was their pregnant mother, healthy and safe, who raised the alarm. The father was rescued at 2:30 am. In Casamicciola, a building collapsed and 3 people were pulled alive from the rubble, 2 women and a man, the head of the local Department of Civil Protection, Angelo Borelli, said at a press conference early this morning. 2 small communes, Casamicciola and neighboring Lacco had borne the brunt of the quake, he added. A damaged car is stuck under the rubble after the quake hit the popular Italian tourist resort, the latest in a string of earthquakes to hit the country in recent years. Pasquale emerged from the building in the hands of a doctor after he is saved by firefighters this morning. Rescue workers were pictured saving a 7-month-old baby from the rubble of collapsed buildings following the quake. An inside view of the damaged Venetum Hotel in Casamicciola in the north of the island, which has been hardest hit. A car turned on its side in the aftermath of the earthquake, in which 2 people have been confirmed dead. Tourists with suitcases walk off a ferry brought in to rescue people caught up in the earthquake on the popular island. Dawn breaks over Ischia today as emergency services work on a collapsed roof to save someone trapped below. Several people still remain missing as locals were forced out onto the streets after the quake. Houses have collapsed, crushing 2 victims and damaging cars in the street. Earthquake victims were rescued in the popular Italian tourist island of Ischia on Monday. Locals and tourists were forced to wait in the street after the earthquake hit the island just off the coast of Italy. People view damage after an earthquake hit the island of Ischia, off the coast of Naples. There were great discrepancies in the magnitude reported. Italy's volcanology agency put the initial magnitude at 3.6, but later revised it to a 4.0 sustained magnitude, and put the epicenter in the waters just off the island at a depth of 3 miles. Last night's quake is the latest natural disaster to hit Italy, with dozens killed in earthquakes in recent years. Among the disasters are a January 2017, 34 people were killed when 4 earthquakes, including a magnitude 5.7 earthquake, struck between Abruzzo, Lazio, the Marche and Umbria regions. Many of those who died were killed when an avalanche hit the Hotel Rigopiano in the central Italian mountains, with the force of 4,000 trucks traveling at full speed. October 2016, a series of major earthquakes hit the Marche and Umbria regions between October 26 and 30, leaving 3 dead and an estimated 100,000 forced to flee their homes. The largest quake measured 6.6 on the Richter scale and was the biggest experienced in Italy for 30 years. August 2016, nearly 300 people were killed as a result of a 6.2 magnitude quake which has an epicenter close to Accumuli, near the borders of the Umbria, Lazio, Abruzzo and Marche regions. The town of Amatrice was devastated by the quake, and more than 2,500 aftershocks were measured. The U.S. Geological Survey and the European Mediterranean Seismological Center gave it a 4.3 magnitude, with a depth of 6 miles. While such discrepancies and revisions are common, Italian officials complained that the Italian agency's initial low 3.6 magnitude greatly underestimated the power of the trembler. At least 1 hotel and parts of a hospital were evacuated. Roberto Elacca, a doctor at the Rizzoli Hospital, told Sky TG24 that 26 people were being treated for minor injuries at a makeshift emergency room set up on the hospital grounds. He said this situation was calm and under control. Mr. Salerno said 1 woman was killed by falling masonry from a church. At least 3 people were pulled from the rubble alive, the Civil Protection Authority said, adding that the island had sustained at least 14 aftershocks. The quake struck just days ahead of the first anniversary of the 6.0 magnitude quake that killed nearly 300 people in and around Amatrice in central Italy. In October 2016 and January 2017, 3 other earthquakes hit the same region. I was on the couch watching TV. Blackout, shaking, something fell on my head. I scream, my mother grabs me and we ran outside, one witness wrote on Twitter. The quake response has benefited from the presence of emergency responders who happened to already be on the island to fight the forest fires that have plagued Italy this summer, local media said. Teams of firefighters, including 2 units specialized in extracting people from the rubble, were quickly mobilized, said Bruno Frattazzi, who oversees the fire department. Ischia's only hospital was also hit and had to be partially evacuated. 5 patients were evacuated to another medical facility by helicopter. Restaurants were packed and many stores were still open when the shaking began, witnesses said on Twitter. A horrible experience. Everything was shaking, plunged into darkness, houses were collapsing. A nightmare, a witness wrote on Twitter. Roberto Elaca, a doctor at the Rizzoli Hospital, told Sky TG24 that 26 people were being treated for minor injuries at a makeshift emergency room set up on the hospital grounds. Houses and buildings were reduced to rubble following the earthquake, which measured 3.6 on the Richter scale. Buildings were damaged and some collapsed after the earthquake hit the island, which is popular with tourists. Earthquake victims gathered on a football pitch close to the area which was affected. Electricity was restored after just a few minutes, but many people stayed outdoors after the quake, reluctant to go inside. Ischia has been a frequent victim of earthquakes, with its worst dating back over a century. Estimated at a magnitude of 5.8, it killed over 2,000 people in July 1883. The earthquake, the latest deadly tremor to hit central Italy, struck last night on the island of Ischia, close to Naples. Much of Italy's land mass and some of its surrounding waters are prone to seismic activity, with the highest risk concentrated along its mountainous central spine. Italy straddles the Eurasian and African tectonic plates, making it vulnerable to seismic activity when they move. Civil protection crews, already on the island in force to fight the forest fires that have been ravaging southern Italy, were checking the status of the buildings that suffered damage. Other rescue crews, as well as dogs trained to search for people under rubble, were arriving on ferries from the mainland. Together with the nearby island of Capri, Ischia is a favorite island getaway for the European jet set, famed in particular for its thermal waters. Casamicciola was the epicenter of an 1883 earthquake that killed more than 2,000 people. Footage and pictures showed around 6 buildings as well as a church in the town of Casamicciola had collapsed. Italian publication ANSA reported a woman had died following the building and several people remain missing, while others are injured. There were reports of a number of people injured in the quake, which took place at the height of the summer tourist season. The island's hospital was evacuated. Police and firefighters rushed to the scene after buildings in the town started to fall to the ground. ANSA reported there were moments of fear because the earth trembled all over the island. In the houses there were fallen objects, furniture, and in shops the goods fell off the shelves. Everyone in the street flocked to shops and restaurants.